I'm going to present two clips that best represent my naturalistic approach to film, both solidly lit, relying on a natural light. In the first clip, we have a story of a kid whose family is moving out of town, and he's faced with the big jump of having to leave behind his childhood. The main challenge here were the various environments: water, sun, trees, and of course a miner swimming in cool April River water. We wanted the lighting to provide a sense of calmness in familiar places, no harsh shadows or high contrast. The place should give a feeling of comfort, contrasting with the harsh and scary water, which represents moving and growing up. Because of this, we decided to shoot in the early and later parts of the day whenever it came to above the ground, whereas for underwater, around midday, to have harsher light, but also way stronger backlight. The movements on the ground escalate, getting more hectic than handheld as we approach the climax, which is when the kid meets a guy in the woods who tries to scare him and challenges him to swim. This symbolizes the protagonist's fear of literally having to jump in the water in order to mature. The camera almost becomes part of the fight, with the wide lens being very close to the subjects. There is no way to escape. The only way out is the water. Until the jump and everything is still, the environment is quiet. The only movement is the kid himself moving within the frame. One of the main challenges that we faced was that due to the cold weather, the parents decided the day before shooting to drop out of the shoot. They were too scared for their kid getting hypothermia. We then were able to convince them by finding a pool and covering it with the gardener green cloth and putting a few stones, getting water dirty and more dense with dirt and white powder, and shooting in a more controlled environment. I learned that although we spent a lot of time in the original location, especially in order to plan how to shoot underwater so that it had the lighting that we wanted, we were prepared as much as possible. Things can always change. But in a way, spending so much time in those locations, trying to learn how the light reacted and active with the water and how the color changed underwater and the various elements that dictate its texture definitely gave us more confidence and eye to detail in order to be able to try and replicate it using similar elements but in a controlled pool environment. Next time, I want to enhance the contrasting movements even more and not be afraid to play with the characters. Be bold with them, especially when shooting handheld. This scene shows a couple who's about to share a pair whilst breaking an oath say the lovers cannot share a pair or they will be forever apart. This is also lit by using mirrors and bounces, keeping it even and lower contrast ratio to reflect their pureness and youth. Contrary to before, we wanted to shoot around midday when the light was harsher in order for them to have one more excuse to get in the shades and hide, to emphasize the fact they were doing something forbidden. The camera flows with their movements in a dancing yet very subtle way. Their love is pure, genuine, and young. There's still calmness and naiveness around them. After the spell happens, the lighting on them gets harsher, the contrast ratio increases, and they're not innocent anymore. They have broken the rules. On the technical side, we also decided to change lens and switch from CP3 to Balter and go for a less pristine look, adding a real element to the lens to emphasize the fact that something is between their love now. Their movement between the more still frame is more hectic now, as if they are constrained in a box with no way out and no way to reach each other, also enhanced by the change in shutter speed. The color scheme also changes, as before it gravitates towards pastel green colors for a more natural and fairy look, whereas afterwards it gets cooler and more contrasty to strengthen the fact that there is no more innocence and something has been broken. The challenging part here was keeping a lower and even look on the characters while shooting at midday, so having very bright spots under the tree, going from dark to full brightness. I learned how the green grass, especially lit so harshly, reflects on white clothes and people's skins. But it worked to our advantage in order to maintain our idea of green representing innocence and youth, especially in the first part, sitting closer to the ground and having even more spill. For the second part and after the spell, we laid around on the grass light blue blankets, which reflected a cooler look overall on them. So a big takeaway here was definitely how natural environments and colors change and react, and how those can affect our perception of a character when the environment is also a subject, and you use that as a storytelling advantage.